Welcome to Backpage Blues Part 2. I'm still joined by Charlie the Hurricane Skillen from the Mail Online. It's time for my favourite part of the week. It's where we answer your questions. But before we do, I have a bit of a bone to pick with you guys. I'll hold that for a sec, Charlie. This beautiful top, as modelled by me, none of you seem to want it. It's a fantastic top, but we need to get 1905 likes. That's the year we were established. So we need 1,905 likes for this video, and if we do, somebody will get this sent through to them in the post. Equally, if you want to buy one, just go on the website A Time Before Sky. Really good website with lots of this sort of stuff, run by Chelsea fans. So have a look. Right, let's start answering your question. Charlie, you lead the way.
You calm down, have you?
I'm furious, actually. I really want to give it away. I want somebody to enjoy wearing that top, as I do every evening.
Lovely. Kieran van der Waal, first question. Obviously, it's Champions League draw this week. I couldn't be more excited. What is the best scenario to winning the Champions League again?
The best scenario to winning the Champions League? I suppose the best scenario to winning the Champions League is to have the easiest run possible.
Yeah.
But that is not really the dream. That is not...
It's not going to happen either.
No, it's not going to. There's some fantastic sides. Yeah. I'm so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am for the Champions League draw later on today. It is going to be fantastic. I am really hoping that we get Tel Aviv. I fancy a trip to Tel Aviv. Yeah, I really do. I think it would be a wonderful trip. I think it's a fantastic historic city. I'd love to go there. And if we could get them early enough, it would be warm. So we'd have a nice holiday in the short shorts. So yeah, the short shorts and Ray-Bans tour would be back alive.
This bloke does not care about anything else. As long as he gets to wear shorts somewhere.
Absolutely. I can't wait. How are you feeling about the Champions League this year? Do you feel like we can win it?
I think we need more depth as it stands at the minute. Obviously, I think the club have recognised that. They're looking to bring in some...
Watch episode 1. If everything that we discussed in episode 1, in part 1 were to come off...
Oh, we'd win the Premier League, Champions League, boat race, Carling Cup,
can you see us? Do you think that we're strong enough to win it with those additions?
If Chelsea get every player that they want to get, then we're definitely in with the shout. We're in with the shout anyway. At the minute, I still worry about the squad depth. Now, the seeding for the Champions League groups is slightly differently this year. We're in pot 1 with all the other champions from around the top 8 leagues in Europe. That's right.
Are you watching Arsenal?
Now, what that does mean in the second part is Real Madrid. Now, obviously, I say all the time that I want Real Madrid. I'm not sure I quite want them in the group stage. I kind of want them later. But there's loads of other good teams around. We can get lots of good Spanish teams. Borussia Mönchengladbach, I reckon, would be a good trip.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I like this. You see how people prioritise their holiday, where they get to watch their team play over like the easiest option.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, for me, anywhere that avoids me going either back, I can't risk going back to Gelsenkirchen.
No.
I've been there too many times.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Didn't enjoy it, and I've been to Basel in Switzerland far too many times. So I can live without those two. But if we can avoid those two, then I'll be delighted.
Yeah. And I'm sure later today I'll be on the blower booking all our trips and stuff.
Yeah, can't wait. Cannot wait. Here's on to the next question. It's Jack. Pleased to meet you. He says the dream striker that he would love to bring to Chelsea would be Edison Cavani. Excellent player. Who would your dream striker be?
My dream striker wears Chelsea's number 19 shirt, Diego Costa. He reminded me against West Brom what an asset he is. Yep. I mean, he's always looking for aggro, which is a kind of good thing in a way. And he's just such a nightmare for defenders. He's such a titan of pace, precision, and aggression. I don't think for this Chelsea side, I don't think you could get a better striker than Diego Costa because he works so hard. Yep. And to play one up front in our system, you need to work so hard. And I just think he's such an asset. So I'm going to be very diplomatic and say,
Diego Costa.
Go Diego
I
Costa.
have a different answer.
Really?
It's important.
Falcao.
It's important that you know how much I agree with everything Charlie just said there. I adore Diego Costa. I think he's a fantastic player and exactly what we need. However, if given a dream transfer, which is what I think Jack is offering us here, I don't see how I can't avoid saying that I would love to see Sergio Aguero in a Chelsea shirt.
What wonderful player. I think on his day, probably the best player in the Premier League.
Sergio Aguero is probably the most flawless centre-forward I've ever seen play.
I mean, and it gnaws away at me as well because Chelsea wanted to buy Sergio Aguero and we bought Torres instead.
If you think about
we all know how that turned out.
If you think about the goal that he scored against us for Manchester City, the opening goal, I don't think another player in the world would have scored that goal. The movement to be
the
there.
The movement, I understand what you mean. I think he's probably naturally the best centre forward around.
Yeah, so I'd go for Aguero in that situation.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, but I'm still a big Costa man. Next question from Mr. Chelsea Dan. Cheers for your question. He wants to see Courtois, Zuma, Fabregas and Matic and Costa as the sort of spine of the Chelsea team for the foreseeable future. And he wants to know whether that could prove better than the famous sort of Czech, Terry, Lampard, Drogba.
It's a really good question. Really interesting debate, this one, actually. I think that the current spine that you refer to is going to struggle to be as good as the previous one for one massive reason. That is, I don't think that Fabregas and Matic will ever provide the amount of goals that Frank Lampard did.
No, I don't think anyone will.
Nobody will. So Frank Lampard in the midfield spine gives you two forwards.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you two forwards, and therefore goals win games. You score more goals, you win more games.
And also a brilliant midfielder as well.
And a brilliant, they're brilliant at everything else. All of the stuff that there's a lot of donkey work that's required from a midfielder. You know, lots of tackles have to be won, lots of balls in the air have to be won, lots of fights, lots of nippy passing. He was great at all that, but equally, he scored 20 goals a season for about 10 years running. He was an unbelievable midfielder, and if you take him out of any imaginary team or any actual team, whatever comes in afterwards is going to struggle. It's irreplaceable.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, I think looking at this side now, especially when we struggle at times with the back end of last season or the start of this, we do actually lack goals from different areas of the pitch.
Frank Lampard against Swansea at home, when we were playing Swansea at home and the score was 2-2, Frank Lampard would have scored a winner in that game.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he was so good at providing that goal when we weren't playing that well. I think we really missed that. And don't get me wrong, big fan of every single player that's mentioned in the first spine. You know, I think it's impossible to say at this point. I mean, what's Zuma played for Chelsea? 25 games, something like that?
Yeah.
Very, very impressively. But, you know, I think people love new players, people love young players. That's the right thing. You need to recognise what Czech, Terry, Lampard job is not just a done thing that these players will step up. Those guys did it. They did it for a decade, and they did it. And
they won a European Cup.
They won the European Cup, and they're the best Chelsea team of all time. They're one of the best teams in English football history.
Yeah. John Terry's got 4 Premier League titles.
You know,
that is incredible.
I think, especially when Terry retires, it will be time to look back and say, how brilliant that spine was.
No, I absolutely agree.
And how lucky we were as fans to watch that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Really good question though, Chelsea Dan. Thank you very much for that one. This question is from Kurzeb. He says, if we had the choice of having one previous or present Chelsea player on this channel, who would it be and why?
Well, mate, you run the channel, so I'll let you answer.
Oh, it's a very difficult question to answer. Obviously, there's some fantastic players and people I've admired for my entire life. You know, but if I could have one player on, I think it would have to be. It's so difficult to put it down to one.
Yeah.
But if pushed, I'm going to go for. It's going to be Ruud Gullit, just to spend 5 minutes in Ruud Gullit's company. You know, I was fortunate enough to meet some fantastic players. I met Charlie Cook recently. I met Michael Ballack recently. Interviewed them both. It was mind blowing, really. I was so nervous, and the only time I've ever felt that in awe of anybody is when you come into the office.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
our first Backpage Blues, he was a wreck. It was amazing.
But to meet Ruud Gullit would be up there, and to meet Roberto Di Matteo would see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
See what happens.
You know, see in part 3.
Yeah, I could waffle on all day here.
Yeah.
I suppose I'd have to go in my gut, which is Ruud Gullit, but Roberto Di Matteo is massively up there as well. Roberto Di Matteo is responsible for giving me more joy than anyone who I'm not related to.
I haven't told you this before. I actually interviewed Ruud Gullit.
What?
Yeah, I interviewed him before I worked for the Mail. Worked for a magazine called 442. Go and buy it. And I interviewed Ruud Gullit about his career and the best games of his career and stuff.
How was he?
It was blinding.
I saw him in Brazil. When I was in Brazil, he was staying at the Copacabana Palace, and I was having lunch there when I was out there for the World Cup, just as an England fan. And he walked through the lobby, and I was so scared. Yeah, I completely froze. Yeah, it was really poor.
I did tell him a story. I hope we got time for this.
Absolutely.
I said when I was sort of 5 years old when he signed. So my family took me over to Amsterdam, And I was a bit quiet during the whole trip, and my mum and dad were like, "Are you all right?" And I was a bit sad. And he goes, "Well, what's wrong?" I thought everyone was going to look like Ruud Gullit.
What, loads of dreadlocks everywhere?
Everyone's going to be massive with dreadlocks, and I was just gutted. I told him this.
Is he laughing?
Yeah, sort of.
I thought you were mental.
He wasn't too sure. But yeah, I mean, he changed Chelsea. Especially for people our age.
He was the best player.
Such an
I remember
iconic
thinking,
figure.
that's how the game. Because obviously I'd seen other players play. You know, the brilliant David Lee and other players like that in a similar position. Yeah, and it was like an epiphany. I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. That's how it's supposed to be played. Yeah. I never knew that is actually the art of playing football. So yeah, it was.
I'd say someone from a similar era. I'd say Dennis Wise. I haven't interviewed him. He's my childhood hero. Absolutely love him.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you feel about? In fact, are you modelling your hair on his wig? Have you seen?
I mean, look, it's been how long have we been doing this? About a year. He's finally got a hair gag in at my expense.
There we go. Yeah, I've been planning that one.
Yeah.
I just thought if somebody mentions Dennis Wise, I'm gonna throw it at him because it's the same wig. Moving on.
Right. Cheers for watching.
Sorry, I'll throw Charlie.
Ryan Payne has asked the next question.
No, that's the same question. I was completely thrown him.
No, it's not, mate. It's not. Which players?
It's me.
He does this for a living. Which players from the current Chelsea squad do you think will go on to become managers?
John Terry, 100%.
I completely agree.
John Terry will be manager of Chelsea. He displays every characteristic that is necessary for a manager. Not all of them are great characteristics, by the way. Some of them are things like winning at all costs you know, exactly what you want from a manager. But John Terry has everything in abundance. People, the players who play with him adore him and would put their necks on the line for him. He has led by example. He can draw on that example. He's played under the best managers in the game, so he can draw on all that experience. You know, he's played under Capello and Mourinho and Hiddink and whoever.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah, Terry.
I completely agree. And you know, he stated he wants to do that, and he actually already takes youth sessions.
Really?
Yeah. At Cobham, he goes and sees the kids, takes sessions and works out how it kind of all works out.
Anyone else? Anyone else from the current?
I think Terry stands head and shoulders above the rest. I'd be terrified if I had a bad game under Diego Costa.
Imagine. Is there anyone else, actually? This is quite an interesting... Anyone else of perhaps the crop that left? The Paulo Ferreiras of this world? The Ricardo Carvalhos?
Just going back to current players, I think the way Nemanja Matic reads a game and thinks about the game, he's sort of got quite a sort of studious head on him. He's kind of imposing figure. I think he'd make a good manager.
Interesting. Let us know, actually. Comment below. Let us know if you think any former Chelsea player who's currently sort of not in management, you think that they would display the right sort of attitude and aptitude to manage. Right, I think we're on to the final question, which is, do we really need Stones? Can't Hurricane play the position for a season? Yes, absolutely. That question is from Waleed. Waleed, thank you very much for your question and suggestion, and I completely agree with what you've said there. Centre half, Charlie?
If they want to pay me John Stones' wages, I'll definitely play. But I'm a bit more of a number 10, like just out wide.
Also, playing alongside John Terry when John Terry's on form, I think that you'd be fine. I think that John Terry made the job easy.
Even me,
you'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah,
guys, thank you very much for your question. As I say, this is always my favourite part of the week. So thank you so much for getting your questions in, and thank you so much for watching. So please give this video a like and help us give that glorious T-shirt away. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, please click the subscribe button.
So, to be frank, I think they should take the money. That's what a lot of Everton fans that I've spoken to think. Obviously, they're